welcome to the Stewardship Podcast, where your host, financial advisor Andrew Mitchell, talks with industry experts to help you steward your time, talents, and money.
Welcome to the Stewardship Podcast. Today we're having a conversation with John Mulder, owner of Master Finish. John, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate that.
Yeah, really looking forward to the conversation today. We're going to be talking about how businesses are working through crisis and through stress, and then also talking a little bit about decision making. John, can you get us started off by just sharing a little bit of your background and a little bit about Master Finish as a company?
Absolutely. Well, we're as a company, we're a third generation family business founded by my grandfather in 1959. So we're over 60 years now.
Wow.
My brother and I are the third generation family business owners, and we have been leading the organization as the owners for the last couple of years.
Okay.
My father just recently retired. On a personal level, I'm a father. I have 4 daughters who live with me at home, all teenage girls, and we attend a Journey Church in Caledonia. And in Middleville now. We love spending time out on the lake. We love going out on hikes and just enjoy each other's company. Just got back from a great vacation where we went out west and got to see the Rocky Mountains and squeeze all of us in a little camper for a week and a half. So it's been a great journey in life and at work. So.
For sure. That's gotta really bring the family together, literally, when you pack them in a little tiny camper for a couple weeks.
It's survive or get voted off the island.
You're right.
Surprisingly, we made it through the whole 10 days. Most of the drive time in my car with 6 of us and a dog, and we went about 3,700 miles without a single fight. So
wow.
God was really looking out for us, for sure.
I don't know whether to say wow to the 3,700 miles or to no fights. That wouldn't happen in my family.
It's the no fights. It's the no fights that I'm most proud of, for sure.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So kind of diving into that whole idea of business during crisis, can you talk us through a little bit of the timeline that you saw or that your company experienced as this whole coronavirus thing started? Just kind of give us some of the highlights and the milestones that you guys walked through.
Sure. I mean, it's we kind of walked through a whole variety of thoughts and worked as a team to try to figure out how do we manage this. This isn't something we had in our playbook. We're not big enough to have like a crisis team or anything like that. So our leadership team, we've got 5 people. We had a meeting and all sat and watched the governor announce that there's this stay-at-home order thing and that everything needs to be closed and everyone needs to stay at home. And so that day we followed the order and for the rest of that week we all went home and worked from home and tried to figure out what it is we need to do. And started reading through all the documentation and figuring out what's essential and what's not. And we ended up starting up work the very next week. We had 17 customers who sent us letters certifying that their work was essential, which was a lot more than we had expected to see. But we decided our work has always been in support of our customers, and so we're not making anything at Master Finish. We're plating our customers' parts.
Sure.
And if their parts are going into medical equipment or going into an automobile, we are there to support that work. And so a lot of those businesses that we were serving had us come right back to work and get started, and that was good. But it was a small portion of the work that we had in total. So it was about 20% of our sales. And it's hard to survive on a business as capital intensive as ours when your sales drop off by 80%. So
for sure.
We went from 5 days a week, 3-shift operation, almost overnight down to 1 shift a day for 3 days a week. And then we went to 4 days. And kept seeing a little bit more come back and a little bit more come back. And at this point now, we've got almost all of our employees back, except those are some special cases on trying to get their family taken care of while they're away at work. And it's been good. And we're at a point where we need more people. Right
Awesome.
now. So we're back to running 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, and 4 days a week, and trying to figure out how we can get the rest of the work that we need to done. So we've kind of crawled through the gamut of those things, and just trying to see how we do this with handling our team the best we can, because the company will survive. The company will make it through this. We've been around for a long time. It's how do we keep the people and the talent, and how do we best serve those people through a tough crisis, because the chaos that goes in someone's mind is way worse than the chaos that happens out on the shop floor. So
yeah, that makes a ton of sense. There's so many thoughts and emotions that go along with, are you essential or not? That could be very demeaning to somebody to say, like, you're not really essential to what's going on. And so it's great that you guys were able to come back to work so quickly. And so did you guys have to take any of the support or the funding that came from the government at all to continue? Yeah. Okay.
And our overhead, just by shutting the line down, continues at a relatively high cost. And it really takes quite a bit of sales being pushed through a plating line to even break even. We're at a point now where we're still not even sure if we're broke even for June. So we've suffered losses each month. We did take advantage of the PPP loan, and we did immediately figure out how to get involved in the work share program, which has been a huge part of how we maintained our way through this and served our employees the best we could.
For sure. I have to think that as you were walking through all of that there was a lot of stress on you as the owner and kind of the top dog making a lot of the decisions. How did you process through that on a personal level? And was it coming home with you, or how did you keep it from coming home with you and affecting your family?
I probably didn't do the best. At home, I do try to keep work at work and home.
Sure.
Like everyone says they do, but it's just I wear my feelings on my sleeves. I'm not good at hiding how I feel or bottling it up. I'm an open book, and so my family saw that at home. I'm not taking it out on them. I'm taking the approach where I'm doing what I can to turn it off as best I can and enjoy the extra time. I got extra time with my family
for sure
over this from staying home. So, decision making and the stress that's involved in all of this is the best way to do that is to have a plan of what is it that's most important to you at the core, right?
Yeah.
And I know, Andrew, we've had conversations in the past where I've talked and preached almost maybe the EOS that we use at Master Finish. It's an entrepreneur operating system. It's a program that helps us figure out what our core values are and what are those actions that are meant for long-term success, and leads us all the way down to those immediate actions, those immediate projects we need to work on every quarter to get to a 1 year and 5 year goal. And so a lot of what drives our decisions is the core values of the company: teamwork, honesty, innovation, and service. And we had to use all of them to figure out how to minimize the losses to get through this. So it takes a team, and we make decisions as a team. We figure out how we can meet on a regular basis, sit down and bullet out all those different issues we've got. work through them in an order of priority to solve them and knock them off and figure it out. So it just takes the system and the management, responsibilities to know what's important and how to react to them.
For sure. Do you feel like that EOS system and the values that you guys have laid out in advance of all this, do you think that banded people together as you walked through all of this?
I think it banded us together way before this ever started. And sure, that having a team that that you can rely on helps you in any situation, whether it's crisis or not. So we as a leadership team, we know who's got the responsibility for what and how we're going to take care of it, and we sit and we have good, healthy debate in meetings and try and work through all the different options we have out in the world. So having the right team wrapped around you is priceless.
For sure. That, makes a ton of sense. You got to have the right support network. And if that's the people at work, even better, as you're walking through something like that is so work oriented. You talked a little bit about the values that come through EOS and how that helps band your company together. Were there values that you personally looked to, or were those values that you listed off for the company the values that kind of guided you and your team as you move through the crisis, or were there different things that you clung to personally as you walked through everything?
Well, my brother and I sat down, and when we just decided we were going to work for my dad and figure out what we were going to make of this company, we decided that setting what the values are, they better be our values. We better believe in them. So fundamentally, they kind of come from a deep dive into what our core values are as people, and as a family, and as we roll that into our family's business. And so a lot of it comes from that. There's some other values that I kind of thought really popped out. They're my values that they're not listed as a company value, but when we got into this crisis, I thought there's two other values that I have that really kind of pop out. Setting a long-term vision and making decisions based on long-term goals more than just trying to manage and muddle through the short term. I thought that was important, that we really focused on making key decisions based on that as a premise. And then also a key decision for the long term comes out of just the responsibility we feel to put people over profits, and in the short term saying we're gonna lose a few bucks here, but what's the right thing for the team? Because the thing that's right for the team in the short term is right for the company in the long term, because we've always taken care of our team in the short term. So right now, as we make these decisions on things, and where I stand today, I had to turn away some business today as we grow, because we're having a hard time finding enough people to get in the door.
Sure.
So we turned away some business, and we're still working people on a 32-hour work week because we're involved in this work share program. Well, I could turn a switch and say we're done with the work share program. We're going back to 40 hours. That takes a $600 stimulus out of every employee's weekly paycheck.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel right to me to take that away from them. So we're going to tough it out for a couple more weeks, doing what's best for the employee, even though we could really use the business, and it's hard to turn it away for now, but
for sure.
So we're kind of managing in that state right now.
Yeah.
Putting people first.
For sure. And that's so appreciated, I'm sure, by your employees to know that you guys are making decisions that's putting them first. You shared one example of the stimulus checks and the extra things that are coming from the government right now to help your people, and the decisions that you're making to allow them to still have access to that some of that stuff. What are what does that people over profit thing mean to you more on like a daily basis?
It means that we do what's right for people. So on a daily basis, it may mean there's some questionable part quality that stays as scrap, and we eat the loss on it as scrap instead of trying to push it through as good product, because our inspectors' integrity, their names and initials are on those boxes, and so we're not going to push them to make decisions that help our bottom line and impact their kind of credibility as an inspector, if you will. We make decisions on how we're going to staff and how we can adjust people's schedule, even though it may be more difficult and more management for us to, if we have shifts that run 6 to 3 and 3 to 11, and we have someone who really needs to work 7 to 4. Figure out how to make those accommodations so we can do what's right for the people, even though it takes a little bit additional management.
Sure. I feel like we've had conversations about this before, but I feel like that's one of the things that is missing in today's business culture, is just taking care of people. Like, that's important.
I think it is. And really, this is going to sound corny or cheesy, whatever, but we're a family business, and I really feel like it. These are my family members. I spend more time here with the people at Master Finish than I do with my own family at home.
For sure.
When I'm home, I'm eating dinner and going to bed, and I'm here 40 hours a week. So it's just I have to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, you know what, I did the right thing for people today. And
that's great.
Yeah, I mean, right now, business is slow and we're not profitable. We're losing money, and that doesn't feel good. It's not good for our people long term either.
Right.
So we do have changes we're making and watching how our bottom line is, and cutting costs where we can, but trying to do it in a way that's honoring people.
Yeah, that's great. The other piece that you mentioned as far as your personal values is you talked about having a long-term vision in mind as you're working through some of these shorter-term issues and things like that. How do you keep that long-term vision, or how did you form a long-term vision to really go towards, and how do you keep that front and center?
Well, EOS is a system that helps us create a vision, create those things that are constants, and a long-term vision. And short-term hiccups don't really change. If COVID has changed enough of our structure where a year down the road we're still seeing a significant change, then we adjust on an annual basis a vision for what it could mean over the next 10 years. But at this point, we haven't changed our long-term projections or goals for the company. We may have to do some things a little different to get there. And short-term goals, the 1-year goals, they're kind of affected. You have to roll with the punches as life kicks you. So it kind of goes to that if we don't have a long-term vision for where we want this company to go, how do we lead people there? How do we get there if we don't know where we're going to go? And so if we let chaos derail where we want to take the company long term, we're not serving people well. We're not serving our customers well. We're not serving anyone well. So we have to maintain that long-term vision and course correct as we need to. But if we make decisions based on what's the best for right now, it may not exactly fit in well.
Sure.
You have to look at that long term.
Yeah, that makes sense. You've mentioned EOS a little bit a couple of times, and I know we've had conversations about that. Is that the framework that you're using to make decisions as you're working through these short-term issues, or are there other things that are shaping and creating a framework to work through the issues?
Yeah, EOS definitely gives us the framework to work through
Okay.
issues, problem solving, troubleshooting, and creating those changes that we need to make business decisions. So it's the
Sure.
framework of meeting regiment, how we run meetings, when we run meetings, what we're doing out on our shop floor, how we're handling decisions, and who's got responsibility for what decisions, and who's accountable to do what. There's
Yeah.
accountability charts. There's a framework for running an effective meeting. There's a schedule of meetings that we run, and we've continued on with our business as usual in most regards on that.
Sure.
Some of our meetings have been over Zoom, instead of in person, trying to accommodate everyone's working remote. But other
Yeah.
than that, I mean, really, the technology changed, the process did.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, we've scratched the surface on a few areas of EOS. Maybe it'd be a good idea for you as the EOS master, somebody that uses it, to give us just a little bit of an introduction to it, and maybe give us a few resources if somebody's like, yeah, EOS sounds interesting. How do I learn more about it? Give us a couple of those things.
Well, there's a great website, eosworldwide.com. And it's short. EOS is Entrepreneur Operating System, and I'm on the board of the Chamber of Commerce for facilitating a user group for EOS. You're welcome to join us with the Grand Rapids Chamber of Commerce in a user group meeting. You can find more on the website. You start with it's basically a one-page strategic plan. Maybe if you've read Jim Collins or any of those types of things, you're familiar with a vision,
Yeah.
and traction for creating that vision. EOS kind of puts that framework as one of its tools. Another tool is an accountability chart, very similar to your org chart, but instead of by job title, it's by function. So who's responsible for getting what things done, and how does that report back up, and what are those key areas of work at your company that need to be identified and bucketed into a position for accountability. There's work that they do with finding the right people, the right person, the right seat, and I'm sure we've heard a lot of that. Anyone who's been involved with family businesses or any kind of business knows about getting the right person doing the right thing really makes a difference. And how do you hold that account? How do you hold them accountable? What's the schedule of reviews for people, and how do you manage the people? And it puts it all into one little system, and allows you to create that framework for running your business effectively, so that communication is done at appropriate times, and that things are followed up on to drive those key objectives in the company forward.
For sure. That's
what other 10-minute elevator speech stuff I could give, but there's a lot more to it than that, and I would really encourage you reading a book if you're interested. There's a book called Traction. It's by Gino Wickman. Maybe you can put that in the notes for the book. And he's got 6 other books that all of them are related to the EOS system. So
awesome.
Kind of the inventor of the EOS system, Gino Wickman.
Gino Wickman, great for those. Thank you for those resources. How did you come across EOS and start implementing it in your company?
Before my father retired, he had run across the book Traction and read the book. He's kind of he's an avid book reader, especially when it comes to business and business related books. So he got that book. He read through it, and then read through one called Rocket Fuel, and read through one called Get a Grip, and read through all these books and started handing them to my brother and I, and we were absorbing it like a sponge. It just seemed to fit into what we needed to do at Master Finish. So the book Rocket Fuel was really kind of a key point for my brother and I. He's an electrical engineer. I'm an industrial engineer, and we're figuring, well, how are us two engineers going to run a business? We don't know anything about half of the world except for the engineering half, and so we read through the book Rocket Fuel, and Rocket Fuel really breaks out how businesses should be led by two different types of individuals. One is a visionary, and one is an implementer. And we read through the books and talked to each other about it, and we both agreed who's got what role, and it helped us figure out how we're going to move forward to be really successful. So it really helped us set a vision for how we wanted to run it.
That's great. How long did it take you to implement EOS in your company?
It's like ISO, right?
Sure.
You get certified, but then you got to make improvements every year. And I would say, I'd say we're still making improvements. We've been doing this for about 7 years now. And I would say we're fully implemented now. Maybe we have been for a couple of years, but there's still some things we've got to do some work on.
Sure.
So,
how big is your company?
Well, right now we're running 3 shifts a day. We have about 80 employees. And size, we operate out of 2 buildings. Each one's about 70,000 square feet.
Okay.
I don't know how else to describe the size of the
company. No, hopefully
that gives you an idea.
Right. No, that's good. I was curious to say, like, okay, so you'd be, a medium-sized business, let's say.
Okay.
If somebody's a small business owner and, they've got 10 employees, from what I understand of it. Yeah, okay, so it might not take 7 years.
No, in fact, if you're really diligent and you've got a relatively small company, you can probably kick something like this off in 6 months, and really be kind of humming with a better direction. And you'll find that there's some parts of it that you're going to implement right away.
Yep.
And some of it you're going to stumble around and kick down the curb for a while and figure out how do we make this fit into our culture and really do a good job of it so that it really does change who we are at the core, so that it's effective.
For sure.
It's like anything. You pencil whip something on a piece of paper and here's our new vision statement, right? And 6 months later, no one can tell you what's on that piece of paper, even if they've walked by it at the front of their office to get into their office every day.
Sure.
If you make it something that people will remember and people sunk their brain and their teeth into, then you're going to get something that's going to be changing, right? Making a change in your corporate culture and who you are.
Yeah. You mentioned as part of that, a meeting regimen is part of EOS and how you get together and communicate with your team. Can you give us just a flavor of what that meeting regimen looks like?
For us, we have, every company is a little different,
sure.
Right? There are some meetings that are kind of like EOS mandatory, I'd call them. On a weekly basis, we meet for 90 minutes. There's 5 of us on our leadership team, and that's called our L10 meeting. And it's called an L10. It's short for level 10. And it has to do with how we rate the meeting at the end. And so you go through a series of setting up what it is that you're doing for a meeting with this agenda. And at the end of the meeting, everyone ranks the meeting, and 10 is a perfect score. So the goal is to have a level 10 meeting where everyone thinks that was a perfect meeting,
Great.
So that happens once a week. We have quarterly Meetings, you're supposed to meet with each of your employees and do like a quarterly review on how they're progressing instead of an annual review. Most companies are doing an annual salary review or whatever. You're not really reviewing their salary, you're reviewing their performance, right?
Yeah.
And so now you've got 4 more chances to keep reviewing with them. So that's one of the meetings. Another is an all staff meeting, we call it. I'm not sure exactly what EOS calls it anymore, but it's a quarterly meeting where you're assessing your performance, you're reporting how you performed on getting those quarterly objectives done in the previous quarter. They call them rocks, and it's a rock is a project that's big enough you can't take care of it all in a week or less. That it's something that's important for the company, and so you're going to report back on how well you're doing on that.
Sure.
And we have those meetings quarterly, and we have meetings where we're setting the next quarter's rock. Let's see, what are the other EOS related meetings? Because we have meetings that are not EOS related. We have daily production huddles, and it's a chance for our team to pass information. We have shift to shift transfer meetings and those kind of things. But I think that might be it for EOS. It's more.
Okay.
How do we keep the people aligned? How do we keep the whole company aligned? And how do we set direction and track progress?
For sure. And it's not, from what you just shared, it's not an overwhelming amount of meetings that just flood your schedule and feel useless. They all have purpose to them, and
Meeting for meeting's sake is the worst. There's a book called Death by Meetings. Anyone who hates meetings, read Death by Meetings. It's pretty insightful, and not only is it a funny title to a book, but man, there's some good insight into the human psyche and how we can really turn that upside down and figure out what it is that makes a good meeting, and try and focus our meetings, the ones we have control over.
Yeah, for sure.
Making improvements there. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks for taking us down a little bit of the EOS track there. I think that's helpful for people to just know that there's a system out there that's already made, that they don't have to come up with it on their own, that there's something that they can follow and run their business on. Can you give us a little bit of what business is looking like for you guys, maybe for the rest of this year, and then for, a little bit farther out than that just to kind of get an idea of how businesses are doing?
Well, so we're 80% automotive.
Sure.
And right now, as I stand here today in the middle of July, there's still so many stones to be turned over as to where the automotive industry is going to go, that I really have no short-term vision for what's going to happen. I'm sure about over the next year or two, things are going to return back to where they were pre-COVID. I got to believe our economy is still fundamentally strong, and that we have good, prosperous times ahead of us here. My short-term prognostics, what's kind of lacking. Before going into this, though, Master Finish as a company had we have a process called APQP, and for those who aren't in the automotive industry, that stands for Advanced Product Quality Planning. Mm-hmm. And by the time we get an order to be plating a new part for the automotive industry, we've got to buy tooling and do the development of that process to make sure it's ready when production hits. So these are all things in our APQP that we have orders for, that we're ready to launch. And we had so much work in our APQP before COVID-19 that we were going to double our business by the end of the year.
Wow.
And now most of it was automotive. So now, right? So we're working backwards. But look, I mean, if we can get that kind of volume of product going through our lines, we're going to be doing really well. So
for sure,
the long-term vision is still still for a very strong growth for our company over the next few years.
Awesome.
It's just how quick do we get all the stars aligning so that the economy just starts, chomping out product, and especially the automotive industry chomping out product. And
For sure.
I know there's
like
program launches that are being delayed, and some of these new cars that were supposed to be coming out in September, October are now December, January-ish. So things are getting bumped back a little bit, but a little bit is okay.
Sure.
The sooner the better, but a little bit. Yeah.
It's always sooner the better, right?
Always is. In automotive, it's can we have the parts yesterday? We'll give them to you tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. That's the thing about being the bottom rung on the supply chain. We're the last guy to get someone's parts and the first guy that needs to get them back.
Yeah. Oof, man.
Yep.
Was there any pivoting for you guys through this time as far as going more away from automotive, or is there any plans for shifting that at all in the future because of where automotive's at?
Yeah. Well, even before this, we were always trying to figure out how do we become more diverse. I mean, having all your eggs in one basket, it's dumb. We found some new opportunities in the medical field. We found some new opportunities in various other types of markets, electrical and components and whatnot. So, we're going to try. The hard part is for us, the bulk volume of chrome plated work is automotive, and
sure,
so we can maybe diversify better by working with more OEMs, getting involved in the Japanese and the European markets a little bit more, finding ways we can diversify out that way, and even maybe more into recreational vehicles or motorcycles or UTVs and side-by-sides and mopeds and whatever, by getting into those different types of vehicles that are not your standard automobile.
Okay.
So
Great.
That's where we're looking, and we're seeing some significant opportunities there now that we've kind of had to out of necessity do that.
For sure. Well, we're coming to the end of our time. I want to give you the chance to give us some final action points for business owners out there. But first, I want to give you the opportunity, if people wanted to find out more about Master Finish or get in touch with you and just ask you some questions, how would they go about doing that?
Well, I'll give you all my contact information. They can reach me by cell phone, by work phone, by email. Maybe you can put all that in the notes.
Yeah.
You can reach our website is masterfinishco, short for company.com. masterfinishco.com. You can find us on Google or any type of search engine. We're pretty well out there in the internet marketing area. So, we serve all kinds of plating needs for copper, nickel, chrome plating on metal components for any industry. We've worked in all sorts of industries over our 60 years. We do a lot of specialty finish work like satin nickels and dark black chromes and that kind of thing. Becoming pretty popular nowadays, and on the vehicles is the black chromes. And so watch out for those midnight edition cars, and I'll sneak up on you. Find some Master Finish black chrome on them. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So can you give us just a few action points or some takeaway points as we kind of wrap this thing up?
The world's going to throw all kinds of curveballs at you.
Sure.
Be patient. Don't look at troubles as things that are coming at you, because God's got something for you out of this, and it's an opportunity. Where others may find that they're going to be brought down or they're going to worry, if you look at where the opportunities are, you can really find life in that. So keep your head up, stay safe, wear a mask unless you're on a podcast. It's safe. And so far, it's not passed through electrons.
Yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed on that one, that it doesn't mutate or something, and all of a sudden Zoom's an issue.
That'll be COVID-20, right? When it passes electronically over the internet. We're all in trouble then.
Oh, I'm glad that we can have a good laugh at the end of this. John, I appreciate you taking the time today, having the conversation, sharing a little bit about your company and a little bit about the systems that you use. I just think it was really beneficial.
Yeah, I'm always open for conversations about EOS. If someone calls and wants to talk about that, I'm an open book. I'll share what we've gone. I'll share our journey, and if I can help someone else along their way, and man, that's a true way for me to be a blessing to somebody else. So
awesome.
I'm happy to do that.
Awesome. Thanks so much, John.
Anytime, Andrew.
Thank you for investing in yourself. Remember to connect with us on Facebook by searching The Stewardship Podcast or email us at thestewardshippodcast@gmail.com. Do you have an interest in connecting with Andrew? Find him on LinkedIn or Facebook, and make sure to join us for the next episode.